gives me the great honour to introduce James Duke to you all, ADF Milking. James is the director and founder of ADF Milking, and he has a background in agricultural engineering, particularly in the dairy industry, where he saw a gap in the market for a milking system that automatically dipped and flushed. He founded ADF in 2004, and the rest, as they say, is history. Today, he is going to reveal to us a brand new ADF product that is going to do wondrous things for milk yield, cow comfort, and cow health, and ultimately, hopefully, make all of your jobs a lot easier. So without further ado, James, I will pass on to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. And thank you to James and Bill for that, those two marvellous presentations. At ADF, we have a passion for delivering practical solutions, and our new focus is on revolutionising the actual milking. Bill touched on this earlier. Cow comfort is absolutely paramount. And this evening, I'm excited to reveal this new product. The initial feedback we have has exceeded even our expectations. Originally, we were just looking to provide more cow comfort during milking, but the feedback we've got has really exceeded our expectations. So our main focus at ADF is primarily healthy milking, healthy cows, improving milking speed and parlour throughput, calm, gentle milking, minimising any stress or discomfort to the cows. And if you get those top three things right, ultimately it brings improved farm profitability. So it's all self-financing. We're always striving to develop new ideas and to identify areas for improvement. And in the past, I think, understandably, our reputation has been built on the post-milking routine. But you can't stop looking. And we did identify an area that's been in the industry for as long as I can remember. And it's to do with the selection of liners for a herd of cows. And how do we go about that selection? And we tweak liners and we improve them or change liners. And basically all you do is move a potential problem from one area to another area, because teat sizes vary between cows. An individual cow will have different sized teats. Her back teats may be bigger than her front teats. And then add on to that a cow's teat changes in both size and texture during an individual milking. It complicates things even further. So how do we select a liner to suit a farm? We can't change liners mid-milking to suit those smaller teats or the larger teats. So if a liner isn't sized correctly, potentially we can get congestion in that teat, and the effect of that congestion can be reduced milking speed, reduced yield. In other words, the cow isn't giving what she's capable of achieving. And just a small swelling of the teat can bring significant increases in the case of mastitis. So basically, we need to treat teats as individuals, and with intelligent venting, or our new product InVent, that's exactly what we do. And we achieve this through control of the vacuum within the liner. Going back to that liner selection, we can only in the past select for a herd, and if we're lucky, we might get that right for 80% of the herd, but the 20% that we haven't got it right could be our heifers, because they've got smaller teats. Particularly important to look after our heifers. They're the future of the herd. We want their association with the milking parlour to be positive. So the last thing we want to do is cause any discomfort from a misfitting liner. And the other 20% are probably perfectly good cows that are just milking at a different flow rate and need different vacuum treatment. If we imagine a very fast milking cow, the vacuum in the claw is going to decrease with the milk flow. A slow milking cow is going to have higher vacuum in the claw. Higher vacuum in the claw has a greater propensity to cause higher vacuum in the mouth of the liner. If I can just share my screen, I think it's probably better to describe this with an animation we produced earlier. Right, Natalie, sorry, can you see that screen shared now?
Can indeed.
You can, good. So if I can just explain what's going on here, we've got the screen split left to right. On the left-hand side, I hope most people will recognize that as being a yellow ADF shell. And on the right-hand side, we've just got a conventional shell and liner. I've shown this at the end of milking, probably on a liner that isn't the best fit for this teat, but basically we've got two identical teats here, or started identical teats at the beginning of the milking. And at this point here, we're at the end of the milking, and this teat has been subject to way too much hood vacuum. It's caused a swelling in the top of the teat. That swelling is restricting the milk flow because the swelling is not just going out, it's going in. So we've got slower milk flow. It's probably not that comfortable for that cow. That, you know, it could be causing some discomfort and stress. We're likely to get incomplete milk out, so effectively we're helping to dry that cow off early, and that teat will certainly have an increased risk of mastitis. But up until now, we've not been able to do a lot about this, the size of the liner or alter the performance of the liner. So if we now focus, before I do that, I'll just run the video so that we can just see what's happening. And we're going to just run this first bit slowly. So as soon as the teat comes through the mouth of the liner, we're exposing the head of the liner to basically full system vacuum. I'll just move that on a little bit, bang. So if I can just explain what we've got here, we've got a vacuum gauge measuring vacuum in the head of this liner, vacuum gauge measuring the head of the conventional liner, and then we've got a bulk tank on each side to give an indication of milk flow and total milk volume. So if we let it play, we've still got high hood vacuum in the top of the liner. Because it's not the most comfortable, that cow is likely to start milking a little bit later. And because we've got a certain amount of congestion in the teat, she's likely to milk more slowly. Bill touched on stress earlier on, and there's nowhere where stress is more important than in the milking parlour, because any discomfort will promote adrenaline. Adrenaline will knock out oxytocin, and that's going to slow that cow down. So in this situation, this is not where we want to be. Now, if we can now compare that to the other side of the cluster, and in fact, if you've got a cow where you know you've not got a great fit, you will actually see this if you split a cluster from an ADF shell and a conventional shell. But if I go to back to the beginning and just explain what's happening on the other side, the ADF side of the equation. Within the head of the liner, we've got our existing valve that we use for coating the teat with disinfectant and skin conditioner at the end of milking, and also delivering our sanitized water to clean the liner between cows. But we've actually modified this injector with this extra ball and a bias spring. So if we look at the mouthpiece chamber vacuum, and if we divide it into 4 sections, we've got this grey section at the front, 0 to 10 kPa. this is the low vacuum section that we don't want to spend too long in because it's going to promote liner slip. Our sweet spot is between 10 and 20, the green zone. This is where we want to be for as much of the time as possible. And the red zone is anything above 20 kPa. This is when we're likely to cause discomfort to the teat. So we want to be in this zone. If we get towards the red zone, our tube that's used to deliver the dip and water is now connected to supply of fresh, clean air. So the ball gets lifted off its seat, the air comes in and regulates that vacuum. And if for any reason, let's say towards the end of milking, when the teat loses its plumpness because it's not so full of milk, and again we're prone to high vacuum, and perhaps you see the cows paddling a little bit, again the vent will open and prevent that. So just running through our ADF cluster. So we got a high vacuum at the beginning, we're venting at a very high rate, we're into the safe zone. Milk flow, cow's comfortable, milk flow is increased, hopefully a little bit earlier on. We get a complete milk out, possibly with an increased flow rate, especially on a liner where the liner is not particularly well suited to the cow, and a dramatically improved udder health going from our feedback. So to sum up, we're venting with clean air, we're maintaining a healthy mouthpiece chamber vacuum, we're minimizing slip through vacuum control, we're not just opening the thing full out when we don't need to, and we're treating each teat as an individual. So for example, on a cow with 2 smaller front teats, they're going to get maximum venting when the back ones don't need so much venting, so we will vent them less. Not every teat requires venting, but generally the teats that do require venting are heifers, and possibly some of the cows that, because they need venting, are slower, so they're holding a whole milking parlour up. When it comes to milking throughput, we can only milk as fast as the slowest cow. And I think, to be quite honest, it's those 20% of cows that are giving you guys 80% of your problems, and those are the ones that are making the real difference. Our customer feedback has been amazing. Unanimously, everybody, immediate response, wow, the cows are calmer. We've got some farms where we've literally switched on an extra litre, or in one case 2, but there was probably a reason for that, by getting the cows to milk out fully. Many reporting faster milking, a lot commenting that the milking, so when we look at individual milking times, the cows' times vary a little bit from day to day. It's not so obvious, but when you look at the overall throughput and the time to milk start to finish, reporting that's speeding up, and consistently improved udder health, fewer cases of mastitis, lower cell counts. As always, with our ADF equipment, it's compatible with any equipment manufacturer and any parlour configuration. For our existing users, it's a simple upgrade, so it's backwardly compatible. This can be added on to all our systems in the market. Please don't hesitate to get in touch if you'd like any further info. Thank you for listening, and Karen, I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James. Yep, we've got them flying in thick and fast here. So James, this is a question from Graham Cooper. Taking the pressure off the top of the liner, what are your chances of getting liner slip, do you think?
If we were just to stick a hole through the side of the liner, then possibly it would promote cluster slip. We had a farm, we've got a farm in Germany on InVent, and we agreed to fit it on this farm. And then after the event, I was told the guy's having problems with cluster slip. I thought, oh my life, and we're reducing the hood vacuum. But he's reported the cluster slip has gone. Now, I think he wasn't getting cluster slip. His cows were uncomfortable. They were jostling around and kicking units off. But we are not experiencing any cluster slip at all. And I've been, you know, trying to promote it, I can assure you. So, you know, we are inventing in an intelligent way. We're keeping it in that window between 10 and 20 kPa. We can't keep it there all the time. You know, if we got an incredibly small teat, it's going to be better than it was before. But for the majority of the cows, for the majority of the time, we're right in that green zone. We can only vent at a certain rate. And for the cows that are way outside that limit, we can certainly improve the situation. Our goal is between 10 and 20, but obviously if you've got a very small heifer, it might be going up to 25 or 30, but then, my word, it would have been 40 before.
Thank you, that's excellent. Mr. Atkinson has asked, does this system affect liner life?
Not at all. No, it'll have absolutely nothing to do with liner life. But one thing that I would mention on liner life, you know, respecting the life of a liner is very important. When we think the way a liner works, it's got nothing to do with whether it's black or whether it's losing its surface. It's all to do about elasticity. When we stretch a liner into a shell, that's what gives it the elasticity to milk. And any elastic material will lose its stretch over time, and eventually you end up with a bin liner just smacking the teat, which is not a good place to be. It happens slowly, so the cows might not necessarily notice immediately, but it will affect your yield, it will affect the health of the teat. And boy, when you go to put new liners on, it will upset the cows, because all of a sudden the whole experience is totally different, and cows are creatures of habit.
Great, thank you. Tom Greenham has asked, what happens to the valve for the vent during wash? Does it remain fully open, allowing air inflow?
Very good question. Very good question. During the cluster only vents during milking. So we have a green button that you push at the start of milking to initiate the ADF system. And at the end of milking, you've got a red button. As soon as you push the red button, it cancels the venting. So during wash, you're not venting. Because otherwise we're going to be venting cold air into hot wash water and costing a lot of energy and wasting that hot water.
Great stuff, thank you. Max Mitchell has asked, how much does mastitis cost the national economy?
There are figures banded around, but basically high cell count knocks production. I mean, we just don't want mastitis. You know, just in morale is not a good thing. And a case of mastitis, depending on yield, can be, it depends who you speak to. In Germany, they say it's 600 euros. I've always had a figure of about 280 pounds. It varies from farm to farm, depending on the value of the cows, the yield you're losing, and the strain of mastitis, I suppose, to a certain extent. But it's a big cost. It's one of the most avoidable costs, probably, in dairy farming.
Well, it's great that so many are striving to reduce it, James. That's the thing. And we must continue that battle,
yes,
mustn't we?
Yeah. And look, we just don't want to be there, do we? We want fit, healthy animals.
We want healthy, happy cows, because that gives us healthy, happy farmers.
With long lives, giving lots and lots of milk. We don't want loads of heifers, because that's as bad as having a teenager in the house. They'll just raid the fridge and give you nothing back. We want mature cows that are going to convert food into milk.
How beautifully put. Well, in the interest of time, James, I think we'll have to move on, if that's okay. Thank you ever so much for that very insightful presentation there.